Look, the boot.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Sweet.
Sweet.
So that's all you did last night?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. No, actually, see, what I used a silicon spray. And I'm working on the loom, did the loom, went to go up and I'm shutting the gate and I touched my face. Fuck, my hands were like silky smooth, because of all the silicon. It was like fantastic.
So you got home and rubbed one out?
No.
Trying to get it off your hands?
It was fantastic. It's kind of got a shape. I've got to have a tidy up. The diagnostic wire's there. That one's coming out. That's fuel pump stuff. Still got to go down the middle of the loom. Trans is out. And then I've decided I'm going to pull the factory wires for the gearbox out of that loom and insert them through that rubber boot. We don't play with hose around you. You're a favourite with hose, eh? Yeah. So what I use these. Hopefully, it's like the steel out of a wiper. And hopefully I can peel the wires through. And I've got this one to pull wires through as well. That's for the hydraulic fan, the diagnostics for the hydraulic fan. So I'll see how I get on today. It took me like 2 hours. Change the rubber boot. Every pin came off, taped up and all back on. So I'll finish the job by multimetering the whole loom because I've had the whole thing apart. And
Why
that's...
don't you stick with the round one?
Nah, it wouldn't look as good. And it's not going to look as good. Right, I'm going to do it. How you getting on with your comments? I've been back into this loom. Put in this plug here, which plugs into my adapter for the under dash connector. I don't normally get that connector when conversions or wiring is sent to me. It's quite normal left in the car. So I put this plug on so I can plug my adapter in. This plug is all done with the Lexus stuff, the UZ stuff. I'm left over with that wire there, which happens to go to the diagnostic box originally. So that is going to come out, and I'm going to use it to feed some more wires through. You see I've stripped the conduit or split sleeve off there. Same deal, I've got the zip tie around there just to hold it together, keep it form. And there's the V6 loom all coming to pieces, because I'm going to recycle some of the wires out of there. Thought I'd better do some work actually on the truck itself. At the moment, front diff, down here. It has some wiring. It comes up to here. Here's our wires for it. I'm going to put them in. So I'm going to track them up with this front loom. At the same time, I've been looking at the air conditioning. This one's got a 20 series. It's got this right pump for this engine actually. And they normally have a 3-pin plug, which I've put some stuff out of my hands here. This plug here. So there's a 3-pin plug going into it. There's the plug off the pump. And the extra wires going to the back on this one are a speed sensor. So I'm just going to cut them off. They aren't being used. I only need the clutch trigger, which is that one there. A bit of recycling of this plug. I've got the terminals for it. It'll plug directly into the hydraulic fan wiring. Easy as. The other one for hydraulic fan is going to go down to oil pressure, which is just a normal switch down there. This might be one reason I prefer to do this sort of job on the bench. Oh. two wires hanging off the front diff that you had to run up?
Yeah.
It's for those. I've kind of got that up into there quite nicely, but I'm just not sure where to run it next after that. Once it goes through that cover, past that cover. For the diff, and I'll run oil pressure down there too. So I'd already run oil pressure, I'd modified the hydraulic fan lines, so I'm going to drop the oil pressure down there next as well. It's separate wire. And we've got this alternator loom that was already done, and the start trigger wire that's already done to come up to the factory box. Once we've done that, we can actually sit a battery in it, I think. Yeah, I'm going to be modifying this fuse box. So what I'll do is I'll bring, what I sometimes do is I drop like some wires out about here out of the loom, but I'm not going to. I'm making the loom like as its own, and then there's another grommet underneath this, behind the breather for the fuel tank, and I'll bring some wires out there. So I'm going to modify in the dash, because we've got the dash out. I'll bring some wires out to here to do a couple of things. I've got to bring out the aircon wiring, the aircon trigger for the fan, because we don't actually have a fan on off in the ECU as such.
So the fan will run sort of standalone basically.
Yeah, they're a sort of standalone system on the fans.
Run the little one as running off aircon or something.
Yep, so what I'm going to do is I'll run the back one as a cooling fan only, the front one as an aircon and a cooling.
So it'll be on a separate higher temperature switch or something.
It'll be on, so when the aircon clips on, the front fan will go, and then there'll be a fan switch when it gets up to a certain temperature that both fans will clip on, is my intention. Sometimes the aircon ones run on a resistor, and I'm undecided. I don't think I'm going to run a resistor actually. Mike doesn't actually know it, but I'm going to very carefully, covertly teach him how to wire.
Calvin doesn't know it, but I just drop my guts.
You freaky freak. No dropping your guts over there, buddy. So covertly, I'm going to teach Mike how to wire cars. He's just been doing the oil pressure, which funnily enough, actually, it was blue-yellow, which was the factory colour on this, and blue-yellow was the factory colour of the hydraulic fan. Who would have believed it? So we have this piece of wiring here, which had the alternator wiring. Oh, there's the start trigger. The alternator wiring. It was the main power for the alternator. An earth. And the main controls go through this plug here. Plugged straight into the fuse box. I'd already made the start trigger wire, which is the start wire, which is that one. And I've already made an alternator loom, which is this one. So what Mike is going to do is connect all this. So pretty straightforward. I've got it. It's quite important that where it comes under this sump here, so it sits about there.
Yeah.
Just be aware that because there are some sharp edges there. Otherwise, we'll need to put some extra protection on there. You should always be using protection.
Especially on your sump.
And I don't think we should go in behind that. I think it's best to sit about like that. So for about 100 mils in the middle here, make it one. So like a X pipe on an exhaust becomes one, and popping out the other side, we want that main start trigger, and we want these three alternator colours.
Yep.
And then this one's going to come up. This is about the right length, so a little bit relaxed, so it allows for the motor movement. And I think I've even put that clip back in there. You can push the sides of that, and that can actually probably a little bit of tape around it. Comes up like that. Put a eyelet on there. What's the amperage rating of our? It's 100 amp fuse.
Yeah, and 80.
So that's, I think that's an AM1 written on here. It says on here, oh no, that's ABS, which is actually meant to be a 60.
It's an 80.
It's got an 80 in it.
Oh, that's a 60.
Oh, it is a 60?
Yeah, it's
and there's a 100 and alternator, so that's plenty for the alternator. So up into there like that. I didn't bring my cutter, sorry. And I didn't even bring a marker.
Why can't we just feed that up there now?
Yeah, you probably can. This clips out. Perfect. And then,
So you want this pulled, that start trigger pulled back?
well, you're going to take the conduit off here.
Yeah.
And this, for about, as I said, about 100 mils, put a single bit, and it's pretty much where the alternator loom ends, where I've taped up to the end of the alternator loom. So from there, just whip that bit of conduit off the main battery cable for the moment.
Yep.
One bit of conduit. And coming out of that, we want 3. We've got
3.
But the black one is going to go with the alternator control-wise. And they come up to this plug.
So the black one's going into here as well?
Yes, so this comes up to the battery. So you can sit the battery in place, put some suitable studs on it.
Yep.
This goes to the battery as well. So those two go to the battery, and that's, I've actually not too bad on my length, eh? It's pretty close.
Oh, that's not what I've heard.
Thanks. I'm happy enough with it. I'm happy with that length. Actually, we could actually go a little bit short. We might end up being a little bit shorter. Cut that one off. Take that one in so that check it's not going to rub in there anywhere. And then this plug, I've made it real simple for you. The black with white is going to be the black. The blue red is going to be, oh, I said blue red again.
Yeah.
The red blue. The red blues goes in. The white is the sense for the alternator. And the yellow coloured one, it's yellow green on there, is the yellow green. And so you can just recycle that there.
Shouldn't we be using new plugs?
I would love to use a new plug, but I don't believe I've got that one. So that, just pop the pins out of that one. I've got pins for it. And give it a little bit of flex so it can sit appropriately. Put a little bit of covering or whatever suitable cover you want to put on it. Probably PVC out here.
Yeah.
And that's your job for the next hour.
10 minutes.
Yeah, next 10 minutes.
So you just strip that back and wrap it around and do the nut up.
Absolutely, yep. I haven't done an earthwire, so you can do that as well. So for the earth cable, I would like, from the battery goes to there.
What up there?
Because at factory it goes there. And then one down to the engine on a nice big bolt on the side of the engine. Normally they go down to the oil filter housing. There's normally a stud on the oil filter housing, but we don't have that proper stud. So these ones are back on the block. And that run that down with, it'll be zip tied with those other couple that are going down there anyway. And then we probably should put an extra one underneath somewhere.
To the chassis.
To the chassis. Would you like to use a new plug?
Doesn't worry me. Looks nicer, doesn't it?
I'm actually pretty happy with that. If that second-hand one comes apart fine. So you pop the centre, little green bit out the centre.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's quite simple, and then just flick them out.
And then there's a little tab right there.
Yeah, and then pull it out.
It's not so easy when I would normally split this back so I can wrap my little finger behind them.
Yeah, yeah.
And out they come. I'll give you my little pokey tool.
Cool.
All I have to do is put these into there. I think. $13, $14 is speedo. $17 is reverse. It's It's interesting they went to white on for reverse on these later model trucks.
Very interesting, actually. I think they would have stuck with green, eh?
Well, reverse was red, black.
Oh,
Yeah. So I didn't have enough wires, and now I've got to the end and I've got too many wires. And I think my problem is that one that went down to the gearbox, which was black, red, which is pin 5 of the shift selector.
oh yeah.
Black, red. That's my extra wire that I was having trouble when I was counting up. And this was about 20 mils further out. Here we go. We're going through the rubber booty.
What?
We're going through this rubber booty.
Aye.
I do have a pull wire there, but I'll use that for the next one. It's going through easy enough. Look at that. Oh, I get to the other end and one wire's fallen out. Right, now I've got to lengthen up. Look, I've got this. Woohoo! Where's that? Reverse plug. I think if I make it long enough, I
How
can.
much gap do you want between that and the PVC? You want it right up to it or a little bit?
So you don't want them right up hard because it puts pressure on the terminal and the wires.
Yeah.
So you want a couple of mils maybe.
Probably
You,
a little bit much, but bit much or?
probably just a smidgen much, but it's not bad. Just take off just a little bit more, and yeah, they drop into there really well, eh? Who put the smiley face on the battery? Yeah. Didn't you say it's not a happy battery unless it's got a smiley face?
No.
I've got that on video. You said it's not a happy battery unless it's got a smiley face.
I really missed the bin with that one.
It's got a smiley face, so it's a happy battery.
Why would you do that? Now I have to clean it off.
Now you have to put your red bit of shrink on that end of that cable. How much are you putting on? Like, does a blind man need to be able to see that?
That'll go over top of it.
All right, does the blind man need to see that bit? Because
I'm not
do they
worried
need to be able to spot whether it's a positive
about-
terminal from the moon?
blind.
I think I've got all my wires into that one now. I think I've got all my wires in that. There were only 4 to begin with, so I'll probably trim those earths off in a moment once I confirm I've got my gearbox wiring correct. And I've run my tube for the front diff. That only leaves this part of the loom left. And it's ready to go into the vehicle once I test it. My gearbox connection is now done. And I tidied up the left hand. It's the left hand? Yeah, that's the left hand oxygen sensor. Injector plugs have been changed. That's the wiring for the front diff. We're left with these 3 here. Got that same plug there with the same keying. So it's got the little notch or the key at the same spot. That one, the lock tab is stuffed. There's a 6-pin with the crank for the crank sensor and a 4-pin with the coil and was hydraulic fan, now the air conditioning and the water oil pressure. That's quite nice. We'll replace those as well. And this loom will officially have every plug on the outside of the firewall will be new. So totally refurbished loom. Diagnostic plug is all done. We're actually starting to get somewhere. Feeling pretty happy. That leaves just the fuel pump wiring, and there's a engine check light and a diagnostic wire over by the computer. So I might actually get this finished pretty soon. This one, these are very common now for giving a bit of a problem, and this one's going to come apart. They often don't come apart anymore. They just shatter and fall to pieces. I've got a new reliable supplier of these. So I was pretty happy about that, to find a good supplier the other day. What you'll see is I'm actually taking my finger around there. I'm gripping on the back of the wire. And that one that broke the little lock off. So a little bit of destructiveness removal is required. What's happened on these ones is I've gone to go in, and it's actually popped the little tab off the lock. This 4-pin one will fall apart as well. So one of the tricks I use going over terminals, if I'm not cutting the terminals off, is a little bit of tape. And then your soldering iron to seal up the end of the braid. On it goes. Tape off. And then a bit of shrink wrap. Because I've sealed the end of the braid, it's not going to all fray when I move it back. Over it goes. Over it goes. And then back into a new plug. And then we hit that with the heat gun, along with all the others. And a bit of tape. We're getting really close. That's taped up nicely. It's all looking in the right spot. I'm happy as. I'm actually going to go and grab my multimeter now. And I'm going to multimeter every single wire in this loom for continuity. It's because I had all this out. It won't take me too long to run over it and check it's all in the right spot, doing what it should. Because it's a whole lot easier for me to fix it here than when it's up on that thing. Often I run them on the bench. Often I'll run a loom up on a test engine before I install it. This one, I've got the vehicle here, so I'm just going to install it. But I will multimeter it just to double check it. I have had it quite a bit in pieces, as you've seen. Every single plug, every single wire came out of the ECU plugs. And hey, we will make mistakes, so I'll just run through and check it. If it gets a pass of approval, tick of approval, then we can put it into the vehicle. I'll do the 28 pin plug, so the main cabin plug, this plug here, I'll do that inside in the vehicle.